we more move into your publisher campaigns, your YouTube campaigns, your VAC campaigns, your the other formats available there. And then there's a part to programmatic, which is the performance side, which is absolutely driving end goal for you. Like, let's say your install, registration, revenue, ROAS, subscription, whatever the client's objectives and KPIs are, right? For that, again, we do more display line items. Let's say the major difference there is we don't focus too much on video formats, because video formats will get you better CTRs, but it comes at a higher CPMs, right? And that is where, let's say, a performance campaign, it is really important that you get as low a CPM as possible, because we get a lot of view through conversions, and that is where I'll cover a bit of attribution bit also. But that is where it is very important that we have as low CPMs as possible, and that is where we use standard banners like GIF creatives, static creatives, but display formats and not your video formats. So this is how majorly two campaigns are bifurcated at a programmatic channel point of view, right? And of course, it doesn't restrict yourself to only display when it comes to performance. We've seen video also doing well, let's say your in-banner videos, your normal outstream videos, but not on the YouTube side of things. The YouTube, let's say, directory will be more around your awareness and consideration point of view, right? And that is where when we, let's say, get any brief from a client, we first evaluate what is their objective, what is the budget, what is the duration they want to look after, and then we suggest them that, okay, should we do, let's say, a branding campaign, or should we do a performance campaign, of course, and what is the strategy we let's say come across, right? So I just have a few sliders which I think you all would be very well already aware of, but I'll just take you all through that and just like programmatic as a differentiator compared to other channels. So let me know once my screen is visible. I'll just quickly, let's say, go through the programmatic sliders before going through the dashboard. It's visible, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when I talk about programmatic, the first point is incremental reach. Incremental reach in terms of the number of ad exchanges that you can reach out to. That is the main differentiator between a Google display and a programmatic as a display medium, right? Google display only restricts itself to Google Ad Manager, but whereas we reach out to Google Ad Manager and, let's say, 30, 40 plus ad exchanges, so to say, right? And that gives us the leverage to serve on thousands of inventories on a day-to-day basis and millions of impressions that we serve. Along with that is, of course, the assist factor, because since you're serving millions of impressions on a day-to-day basis, you are somewhere down the line impacting the other channels. Of course, there are mediums that you can gauge all these numbers from, one being DoubleClick Campaign Manager versus DCM. Even GA gives that report. So where you can, provided all the channels are being tagged to those platforms, you can say how much you're assisting paid, organic, all the different channels, right? Along with that, the creative catalog that we have, like we can do some great rich media creative formats which might not be available to any other DSPs or any other channel, if I have to say, right? So be it your data-driven creative, be it your, let's say, in-banner video formats. So a lot of high rich media creative formats we can do. And again, when it comes to placements, we have some DAN tie-ups which you all are also aware of when it comes to the premium publishers that we work with. And then coming to the audience, we get a huge leverage of different profiling of audience, starting from Google in-market affinities, installed apps, your lookalikes. So we can do a lot of audiences when it comes to targeting. And of course, that is where we can, let's say, marry a brand campaign and a performance campaigns on programmatic, right? Let's say you're running a brand campaigns for, let's say, 30 days or 20 days, a short burst, or even a longer term. We can make a visitor engagement audience of that brand campaigns and use it for retargeting. So that is where it gives the client a full funnel kind of an approach where you are driving branding, you're doing awareness consideration and bringing those users back using your performance campaigns as well, right? Just moving to the basics, like in terms of what are the main blocks on which a programmatic as a channel is built on, where we are just reiterating audience access is your inventory, the different assets in terms of automation and analytics. That is a very, let's say, important part, because the levers of targeting that we get data for the same on the dashboard itself. Of course, that might not be accurate data because you might be looking at, let's say, backend numbers, GA numbers, DCM numbers, but we get some directional numbers to go forward with our regular optimizations. Like, is this placement working for us? Is this audience working for us? Is this environment working for us? So on and so forth, whatever granular level of data we get, right? Again, just this is something that we follow when we do, let's say, start any performance campaign. So as to say that we have your Google buckets, then you have your seed audience analysis, then you can do retargeting. Then your activity-based audience is something that you marry with your brand campaigns. Then you have your retention campaign, that is like your customer match list. Like, let's say a client says, I have a list of user pool device IDs that I want you to go and target on the platform. So that is something, again, a USP of the platform that you can do, right? Then coming to retention and retargeting, we do recency level retargeting retention, where you can actually choose the number of days that you don't want to target a user, or you want to target a user. Let's say I don't want to go after the user who have engaged with me in the first 7 days, because they'll anyways convert. So I can leave out those users. So we can do recency based targeting funnel, where we capture it, we tap into the different funnel of the user journey, right? And then marry it with the right communication that you want to say. So let's say for an installed audience, you want to have a different communication. For, let's say, someone who's added to cart, you want to have a different communication. So we can create campaigns like that, right? This is the basics of, let's say, the different placements that we have, like when it comes to your managed placement, because you would be hearing a lot saying that what if I just want to go after a particular vertical of placement. So we always suggest, of course, again, it would differ from briefs to briefs, but you could only figure out the verticals and the placement that actually work for you when you start with an open auction. And then let's say 2 weeks down the line, these are the top placements for you. You make a list of it and you run only for those particular placement. It could be a combination of your finance, your Bollywood, your news, your entertainment, your sports, gaming, anything. But to directly start from that, unless it's a specific requirement, one shouldn't, like, as a best practice, shouldn't follow. Along with that, we have something called as category or auction packs, which is where the Google team helps us with seasonal, let's say, auction packs. Let's say during the IPL season, if you want to have more share of voice on your gaming inventories or sports inventories, right? You have something called as auction packs, where you can just target those particular category of placements. Of course, at a bit higher CPM, but it will, of course, definitely get you better engagement rates. And similarly, we have something called as installed apps, where you can target the similar vertical of apps one already has, right? Feel free to interrupt me anywhere.
Yeah, Rohan, I have a question. This is
Yeah,
Achut here.
yeah. Hi.
It was so on Google Ads, they're going to stop the lookalike audiences, similar audiences. Is that
Right.
same thing going to be applied on DV360 also, or can we continue with similar audiences on DV360?
We can continue. So on DV360, the direct option of lookalike is now no more there. Earlier, we used to get a direct option to create a lookalike, but now you can create lookalike using that audience expansion option. So within audience expansion, when you, I'll show it to you on the platform as well. So on the audience expansion bit, there's an option of balanced expansion, and that is where it creates a lookalike. So, but to answer your question, lookalike continues on the platform.
Got it. And one more question in the previous slide, if you can go to slide 5. Yeah, over here you said you could find the optimum frequency count for a conversion and control how often a user is exposed to the ad. How
Right.
do you determine the optimum frequency count?
So basically, let's say when we run, again, giving an example, let's say you are running 5 different line items or 6 different line items, right? And you are targeting a Google in-market bucket, affinity bucket, or let's say retargeting users for that matter of fact. Now, each line item will have a frequency and each insertion order will have a capped frequency. Now, how do we arrive at that capped frequency? Because you can pull a frequency report where you will see it's kind of a bell curve, where initially at a frequency of, let's say, 1 or 2, you might be getting 10 conversions. At a frequency of 4, you might be getting, let's say, 20 conversions. But then again, at a frequency of 7, 8, the conversion rate drops or the conversion volume drops. Again, it would be different for a reach campaign. Let's say, as we know, lower the frequency, the much wider reach you can have. But it depends on what is the frequency you're trying to build there. But if I have to talk about this particular slide, it is more from seeing that bell curve from the report that we pull, that you can get a frequency reach and frequency report where we see what is the right frequency for one to target. Like, do we want to expose the user 6 times a day, 5 times a day, 7 times a week, or let's say even 12 times an hour, for example, because the audience pool is so small that for the campaign to spend, you need to increase your frequency. So that is where we go very hard after the user, because we want the campaign to actually spend, because we know those are intent-based users. So it actually varies from the KPI that you are chasing. But we do have, let's say, kind of a best practice. I don't know if I should call it a formula or not, but over the years with different campaigns that we've run, we know that, let's say, for a retargeting campaign, we should run at a frequency not less than 10 per user, right, per day. Of course, it doesn't reach out to that user 10 times, but unless we put that cap, the campaign doesn't get that, let's say, impetus to spend. For a new acquisition campaign, that could be 3 or 4 times a day. This is again capped at a insertion order level or a campaign level. While at a line item level, you might vary. But if a user falls under 5, 6 buckets, you don't want the user to get exposed too many times again. So that's the whole, let's say, thought.
Got it. Thanks, Rohan.
I'll just move ahead to one bidding option that I think everyone would have heard right now in the DB360 universe, which is custom bidding, and it is more used for the performance campaigns than the brand campaigns. And of course, you can't utilize it for the YouTube campaigns. YouTube campaigns doesn't have an option for custom bidding, but your display line item does. On display line items, you can choose a mechanism of custom bidding where you can make scripts. Custom scripts putting different weightages to different floodlight activities. So let's say, again, an example, let's say I have a install to registration that I want to drive. Now I want to, let's say, increase my conversion rate. So you can use a custom script putting different weightages to those floodlights, because each event will have a floodlight against it. And you can, let's say, make a custom script and feed it into the system and telling the system that I want to drive more of, let's say, leads or registration. And the system will try to serve impressions or throw impressions on inventories that are more likely to get you those conversion rate. It like, of course, unlike Google, it's not a hard piece that the system will follow unless it won't spend, nothing like that, but the system will try to improve that. So this is a, let's say, a better version of your maximized conversions and fixed bid that we use for display line items. This can be used along with those. So it's a newer setup in the bidding side of things. Not applicable for the YouTube campaigns yet. When it comes to the creative best practice, again, this is more from, let's say, your non-static creatives that you want to run. These are different examples, right? Just let's say that you want to have some GIF creative, some animated creative, something moving in nature that increases your engagement rate, right? So these are some of, and let's say a human touch definitely helps. Let's say offer callouts, like if there's some offer that is going on. So all these are different, let's say, type of creatives that we prefer. Like, as you would see, like something of this sort, of course, there could be a better version of this rich media creative, but it is again few examples. This is something. This is like an in-banner video. Within a creative, there's a video that is running. This works really well for your engagement rate and your performance as well. The AHA one that you can see with Allu Arjun on it. So within the creative, you have a small video. Again, the dimension can vary. So this is a good format to explore on the programmatic side. Right? This is again the data-driven creative. This is an inbuilt feature on the platform where, let's say, your communication will vary. The background might remain the same, but you can, let's say, change your communication depending on the user you want to reach out to. So let's say example could be for, I'm just taking a random name, let's say Dunzo. For Dunzo, you want to, let's say, in the morning hours, you want to show a communication related to breakfast or morning groceries. Let's say for afternoon, it could be different. For night, it could be something more around entertainment or parties or some other, let's say, communication. So you can do the same user will see different communication at different hour of the day. So this is something you can do using data-driven creatives. Any questions so far? Any queries, anything from you? I'll take that as a no overhead. These are some initiatives that we've tried on the programmatic performance side of piece, which has led to a, let's say, if I have to put it, a sure shot growth kind of a thing, like in terms of seasons, festive season, cricket frenzy seasons, having Google auction packages. So everyone having more share of voice on premium inventories, right? Along with that, we have some other DSPs that I was just talking about. Let's say your RTV House, your Critios, or different DSP is part of the programmatic universe as well, right? One more that I think you all would be working on is the video action campaigns on a regular basis. That is where, which is a YouTube format, and off lately there's a beta that has been unlocked where you can use video action campaigns for performance as well. That means you can use conversion pixel or floodlight to optimize your video action campaigns, which earlier wasn't there. So Google has unlocked this beta, and that is something a very interesting feature and a new feature that is really helpful for the system, like the campaign type in terms of performance as well. That's more or less from the overview of programmatic. Anyone has any queries, or then I'll move towards dashboard per se.
Rohan, just a quick question for the YouTube for Action. Any particular formats are working, or you can use it across?
So format as in it will pick up your YouTube links again. So it will serve on your YouTube home feed, in stream, YouTube or other inventories. The format would be your standard video action format, like your YouTube links only. But it has earlier, it was more towards awareness and consideration because that in-app optimization feature wasn't there, which has of lately been, let's say, unlocked. That beta feature has been unlocked. So it is working well on the performance side of things as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
No, but the format I also meant like, is it only for in-stream, non-skippable, skippable, or discovery ads, or it's available across formats?
So it's only for YouTube links. So the format, like if you're like if you're saying, is it in stream, out stream, is it a bumper? There is no option as such. Here, what it happens, it picks the YouTube video that you want to show it to an user, right? Along with that, it will have your conversion, let's say language and a CTA button that, okay, you are seeing this video. Now you can, let's say, install now, play now, shop now, or different communication along with that. So there is no bifurcation of in-stream, out-stream, or bumper there, skippable, non-skippable like that. It directly picks your YouTube videos and show it to the users on the different YouTube inventories that are there.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions, or then we can
Yeah,
move to
Rohan, just one question. So, in terms of when we look at performance campaigns, usually we utilize channels that have cost per conversion or cost per visit, whereas over here we have to do everything as CPM by type, right? So how
Correct.
does programmatic compare in terms of the other channels like Meta and Performance Max and even e-commerce channels in terms of the cost per conversion and the conversion rates?
So basically, when you, let's say, think of programmatic, I think you all would have been hearing again, everyone says it's for only upper funnel driving awareness consideration. That isn't the case. Of course, maybe your Google, Facebook, Meta platforms are your traditional performance channel, which let's say can get your CPI in the range of 25, 15, 20, 30 rupees. A programmatic campaign might not be able to do that, but the end goal conversion rate, let's say from an install to, let's say, your subscription, if I'm talking about install to subscription, that conversion rate would be better and it would be comparable to your other channels. Of course, not from day one or week one or month one. You need to give a programmatic channel sometime in, let's say, at least 1 quarter for the experiments to be carried out, to understand the user persona, to understand how the system is operating. And that is why initially I mentioned that lower the CPM is better for you. And that's why we prefer non-video campaigns for performance, because if I'm running at a CPM of 20, I can never get a CPI of, let's say, even a 40, because that conversion rate isn't that high, right? So we operate at CPM as low as 4 rupees, 5 rupees for the display campaigns on performance, right? We cap it at 7 rupees, 6 rupees. So lower the CPMs, better is your next conversion rate, and then better is your other funnel rates. And of course, to that, it would be your targeting, your frequency, the optimization, the floodlight optimization you are using. But when you compare it with your other channels, of course, the top funnel might not be comparable. It is, let's say if your other channels are getting 25, 30, I might get it at 60, 70, 80. But let's say subscription, the other channels are getting at 200. I might get at, to start off with, I'll get it at 400, 450. But let's say by the time I hit Q2, I'll be there in the, like in the range of 250, 270. And then month on month, that would be improving. So, and also one more call out here would be, so initial start of the month, we won't be asking for a lot of budget for the performance side of things, because you know it for a matter of fact that you're not going to meet the business goals. So you start at a very low budget, let's say 6 lakhs, 7 lakhs a month, while your other channels would be doing 20 lakhs a month, 30 lakhs a month. And slowly you follow stepwise function of scale up. We never, let's say, take a 6 lakh to a 20 lakh. We take a 6 lakh to a 9 lakh, a 9 lakh to a 15, a 15 to a 25. So it's a stepwise scale up that we do. And because that gives time for the algorithm to set in and the campaigns to stabilize. And to start off with, you might be at 5% of the overall marketing mix in terms of the budget. But by Q2, you would be, let's say, around 20% or even a 30%. So we've seen it vary from vertical to vertical again. But yeah, that's how we've seen it for performance. That the upper funnel might not be comparable, but the lower funnel is, because the conversion rate from there to the other funnel is better because of the audience targeting, the different creative formats that we use.
Got it. Thank you.
Hi, Rohan, Amit here.
Yeah, hi.
So, Rohan, I just wanted to ask on YouTube for Action, like, what is the bidding strategy? What, like, are we going with automated or manual?
So now there are 4 options actually on YouTube video action campaign, out of which 2 are betas, 2 are always on. One is your maximized conversion, one is your target CPM, because on video action campaign, you can't control your CPMs. So there your CPM isn't your primary concern. Either you choose maximize conversion, where you tell the system to get as many conversion within the defined budget. Best practice is to start with maximize conversion and then move towards a TCPA, where you are telling what is the CPA that you want to drive within that budget. Because unless you run the campaign, you don't know what is the CPA you want to put as part of your TCPA, right? And so you start with maximize conversion, then you move towards TCPA. Now there are 2 more bidding strategies that Google has put up. Again, it's a beta stage. Something called as maximize conversion value, and one as maximize ROAS, where you can actually tell the system what's the ROAS you want to drive. It will try to drive that ROAS, but of course, for that, the system should have the revenue data capturing from the particular MMP you're working with. And the other is maximize conversion value, where, let's say, for example, you're driving one conversion at 5,000. Now, if you put 50,000, the idea is the system should get you 10 conversions, right? So that's the other bidding mechanism. But we always prefer to start at maximize conversion and then move to TCP. That is also what Google suggests.
So it is suggesting like maximize ROS or targeted ROS?
So ROS one is a beta feature right now. You can't do it from the word go.
No,
right
so
now.
it will be like maximize ROS or targeted ROS, the beta which is in beta.
It's target ROS, like what is the ROS you want.
All right. And just a basic question, like any agency can get this DV360 access, or is there any criteria?
Agency, I think if the agency is partnered with Google, yes, you can get your DV360 account, let's say a partner account. But for a client to get, it has a minimum spend commitment that the partner should do. So let's say, for example, there's a brand, I'm just giving any name, ABC. Now ABC says, I want my own DV360. Google will say, you have to give me a spend commitment, which is the annual spend commitment. I don't know the exact amount, but the last I had heard was 10 million USD a month, which is close to 70-80 crores annually. The brand has to promise Google that, okay, I'll spend so much on DV, they can get their partner account. Otherwise, agencies, I think, since they are Google partners, they can get your share of like co-op seat. Like, let's say ABC can share that seat with that agency. So you can get a shared partner seat from Google. Any agency can get that. There's a form that and a request that needs to be passed on to Google, and Google will help you with that.
All right, because like I was working with a small agency and we were struggling to get this DV360 access. Okay. So what Google has suggested, either you go with Merkle or like the agency who is having DV360. So like they proposed Tatvik also. So Tatvik is also there. They said like we can do like managed account. We can set up our account manager and they can help you with that. Or else we can execute your campaign and we can create 2 or 3 case studies and then you can further process to get this DV360 account.
Yeah, because you have to be Google certified partner. So that's why, let's say Google also has a criteria to share it with the agency, which you rightly said. So you have to, let's say, build a few case studies, build up that, let's say, account wise, I think there's also some Google partnered certification that is there. So Google has certain criterias against which they also extend that access to the agency. So if an agency has that access, that means they are certified Google partners. And for to become that partners, there is a list of criteria that that agency has to fulfill.
Got it, Ron. Thank you.
Any other questions? Take that as a no. So I'll move towards the dashboard, let's say. Yeah, so this is how your DB360 overview would look like. This is where you'll have all the partners that you would work with. Now, let's say, for example, I just move into Grow, for example. So within a partner is your care of seat or the partner seat, basically. In this case, Grow has partnered with Socrates to get their own DV360 seat. Similarly, Amnet will help you get your seat for any advertiser as well, right? So it varies, right? So this is the advertiser that you're working with. So basically, this is a client that you have, right? So here you will see impression revenue, your other metrics, but this might not be accurate to the report you pull because DV360 dashboard numbers and the report numbers might vary because DV360 again doesn't sometimes get real-time updated. So you would, if I pull a report, this revenue might vary to what I'm seeing here. So we go by the reports, right? What is the report showing? Again, it is important to check the time zone that your advertiser has been created at. Some advertisers are created at Hong Kong time zone and some advertisers are created at India time zone. So let's say you're pulling a report now, ideally you're getting the spends at Hong Kong time zone, which is 2.5 hours behind us, right? So you have to check the time zone at which your advertiser is created. Now within your advertiser, this is where you set your campaign. So campaign is basically your nomenclature part, like just for the ease of reporting. This won't have anything to do with what you execute, right? So let's say on, again, giving example where you're running a brand and performance campaigns, I can have one campaign as branding, one campaign as new acquisition performance, one campaign as retargeting performance, one as retention performance. So this is only for the ease of your reporting. Because when you pull reports from the various MMP, you get it at a nomenclature wise. So it like a creative ID wise. So it helps you identify which campaign it is for. So again, at a campaign level, you have your settings that you want to set. So maybe just walk you through the campaign settings also. So let's say on campaign level, you get a option, what is that you want to drive? There are different, like depending on the KPI. So branding, online action or visits. For performances, mostly app installs or engagements. So you choose the overall campaign goal. KPI, you can put it up, you can leave it as others also, because at the end of the day, you'll be defining that at a line item level, which is the main place where you need to define all your objectives, right? Your insertion order and your line item. Then the creative types, you can make changes anytime during the campaign. So it's not that if you would have created and you missed out on any option, it will hamper the campaign. It won't. You can come and select it again, right? And then you can just put your budgets here. Ideally, you shouldn't put any budgets or end date because you should control that at a line item and insertion order level and not at a campaign level, unless you know that this campaign is for 10 days only. So there you can put a campaign ended just for as a safety feature and a best practice so that you don't end up overspending or not pausing the campaign. But let's say for an always on campaign, we don't put an end date to it. We control that at a line item and insertion order level. And then again, frequency cap, you can put it at a campaign level. We put it at an insertion order level because that also serves the same purpose. Again, it varies from your objective to objective. Let's say within a campaign, you have 5 insertion order. And at an insertion order, you want to cap the frequency, then you should do it at a campaign level. Unless that, you can do the same at insertion order level. So it varies from your strategy and briefs. And these are your geographies. Like here again, you don't select anything, you keep it as open as possible. And of course, brand safety is one that we always put and for any campaign, because we don't want to serve on placements which are related to this sensitive categories. This is again, the client will also call it out that make sure that we are not serving on any categories that are banned. So we make sure that we have brand safety in place. And then you create your campaign. Now within a campaign, you will have your insertion order and your line item. Insertion order, again, it depends. There is no specific format for creating an insertion order. It depends on the strategy you have and the ease of reporting again. So let's say you are going after 5 geographies. Now you want to separate your geography in terms of reporting or in terms of the numbers and in terms of the performance you get. So you can create each IO at a geography level. Let's say one for Bangalore, one for Mumbai, one for Hyderabad, one for Pune, one for Delhi, like that. Or let's say you can make insertion order at an environment level. Let's say one for Android, one for iOS. So all those can be varied basis. Again, at the end of the day, it helps in terms of reporting because you know which IO falls under, like which campaign, which line item falls under which IO. So there is no hard and fast rule here, right? Again, let's say for the different formats, you can have an IO. Let's say a native, which is a creative format, versus let's say a PPO campaign or OBB. I want to run PPO as a different IO because within PPO, I can then control the audience I want to go after, the creative formats I want to go after. So it completely is your call. But again, you should have a thought as to which are the, like, why do you want to have this IO as this? Like you should have a fixed nomenclature to it, right? So let's say within an IO, what are the settings available which one should have, right? So within IO, you can, of course, this is where your budget and your end date comes into the picture, that you should always, basis this, your line item will follow the rules, right? So let's say you can create segments that I want this IO to run till May 17th at least. And you can add deduct anytime during a campaign. So again, you can make changes. And this is the overall budget. This is the overall budget for that duration, right? So sometimes it happens that the campaign did not spend yesterday. The reason could be that this overall budget would have exhausted, right? So it is very important we keep more budgets than intended at this level. Then you have your daily pacing. Again, it depends on the strategy. Do you want to have ASAP even? Do you want to have a daily budget or a flight? Again, it varies from campaign to campaign. Now, upper funnel campaign might have a daily ASAP because you want to spend, let's say you're spending 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs a day compared to your performance campaigns, which might be sending 50,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, even or 5,000 or even 2,000. So it varies how you are spending, right? What is the amount you're spending? Then you have your goal that since this is a performance campaigns, we have put a cost per action goal of 20 rupees. Now for awareness campaign, it could be clicks, it could be your impression, it could be the other let's say objectives you have. So this is again varies from campaign to campaign. Billable outcome, if we are running PPO campaign, this would be on clicks. If you're running non-PPO, PPO means paper outcome campaigns or OBB campaigns, which Google calls it, outcome-based buying. So that is more on click-based and this is on impression-based, right? So you can run PPO campaigns by changing this into clicks, but this have to be selected while creating the insertion order. Then in terms of optimization, you want to control the bid and budget at a line item level because each line item will have its objective. You don't want to do it at the IO level where it will automatically align budgets basis the performance. Of course, that is one want to, like, that's an automated thing and system might do it, but not always. Like, since we get data from an MMP, now what the system is getting and what the MMP is getting might be different. And that's why we keep it at a line item level because we do it as per the MMP data. What the MMP, like it could be ASLA, it could be branch, what that data is giving me. According to that, I want to move my budgets, my bids and the other parts. So then frequency here, like I have kept 9 per day. Within Now I might have 5 line items, each line item has 6 per day. And let's say a user falls under all the 6 line items. So ideally 6 per day for 6 line item, and a user part of all the line item. One might think that, okay, the user will get exposed to 36 times a day. But if I cap it at a IO level, the user will get only exposed to 9 times a day, right? At an overall level. So here you can have your frequency. Then again, brand safety and your geography. And the rest of the targeting is at a line item level. Now, when you make a line item, you have various options, right? So just let's say here you have your display line item, your out. This video is your outstream video, which is your CPM buying video where you're serving on, let's say, for example, a Spotify, a Ghana, a MX Player, Sony Live, like your non-YouTube video inventories, right? Then you have your audio ads. Then you have YouTube. This is your YouTube line items, right? And then the others are there. So the most used are your display, video, and your YouTube partners. Right? So these are the main type of line item that you want to use. Now within a line item, what are the different levels available? So this is IO. Within that, you have your different items. So here, so within this IO, we had 10, 12 line items. So I want to control the budget at a line item level because I want to make changes whichever line item is working for me. Again, how is a line item defined? It depends on what is the audience you want to target. So let's say for a particular audience, you want to target 5 different creative formats. Creative formats like native, template, interstitial, your display banner. So as a best practice, you should have separate line item for each. So let's say audience is 1, but you should have 4 line items for that audience, each line item having that specific creative format, because that is how you know which creative format is working well for you and you can control the budget. Now, what happens if you run all within the same line item? You might know what is working, what is not, but you can't control the budget at a creative level. But while you make different line items, you can control the budget at a creative level. Now, let's say I want to have 2 creative formats for 2 audience sets. So I will do 4 line items that for each audience, I want to try out 2 different creative formats. And then for audience set 2 also, I want to have 2 creative formats. So I'll make 4 line items so that I have more granular level of control of what is working, what is not, right? So it all depends on your strategy again. How do you want to place it? Now, within a line item, what are the options you have? You have your ad exchanges. Like, do you want to serve on all the ad exchanges, or you want to just restrict to Google Ad Manager, or let's say a bit switch, or let's say what are the different ad exchanges that are available on the platform, right? Let's say a Taboola, or let's say a Smart Clip. You can choose your specific public inventories, or let's say a deal that you're doing, a publisher buying deals also, right? So these are the inventories that are available. Under targeting, then you have your brand safety. Apps and URLs is when, as I mentioned, that we go by open auction, and then whichever apps or URLs are not working for us, we go and negate it, right? So these are the ones, particular line item has not worked well for us. So we've negated that. So you can negate multiple at once. You can, let's say, remove channels. You can remove URLs, apps, whichever placements that are not working for you. Then is your environment. Do you want to serve on web or app, or choose only one? You can choose either one. You can choose both. So you can, as per your strategy again. Then viewability. Viewability is something that when the percentage of that ad is shown to the user, it will count it as an impression. So let's say when I say 10% or greater, that means when the ad is 10% visible to the user, it will count it as an impression, right? All impression means the user might scroll on the web page. It would have, let's say, loaded on the top, but the user is on the bottom of the page. It will still count it as an impression. But when you put viewability, you can actually tell the system that you only count it as an impression when the user is seeing 30% of that ad. That gives more, let's say, better CTRs, because you are, let's say, the user is actually interacting with your ad and actually reading what the ad shows, right? Then is your audience list. You can choose what audience you want to target and negate. Like it could include first party audience or third party audience, your Google audience, your combined audience. Combined audience is a combination of your Google in-market affinity bucket and then your custom list, like your custom intent, custom affinity list. And similarly, you can exclude whatever audience you want. You want to exclude a Google audience bucket, or let's say you want to exclude a particular floodlight first party data. Let's say people who have already installed, people who've already visited the web page. So because you have an integration and you have a floodlight placed and that data is being passed back to the platform, so that audience is automatically then built and you can negate those. This is where I was talking about recency based targeting. When I say recency, you can negate, let's say, depending on the strategy, you want to negate people of the last 28 days, last 14 days, last 1 hour, last 10 minutes, you can do that. Or similarly, if you want to target also, you have a recency option on the targeting also, right? So you can do that recency bit also when it comes to exclusion, right? After audience, then you have your geography. Geography, you can target your uh, city, state, country, pin codes, radius. You can do all sort of geography level targeting. There's no latitude, longitude, everything is allowed, right? So there's no restriction there. So you can target India and negate the cities that are not working well for you. So it will restrict itself from, let's say, these cities that we've negated. Now, day and time, again, from which time to which time do you want to serve on every single day of the week? You can choose here. Again, time zone, one should keep it advertiser. There is option of advertiser and local. Keeping it local sometimes have that discrepancy. So to absolutely, let's say, not give the system any sort of discrepancy in terms of ad serving time, you keep it as advertiser time zone, and here you see what is the, as I said in the first part, that you should know what the time zone of the advertiser is. Is it Hong Kong time zone or an Indian time zone? So as I said, if Hong Kong is 2.5 hours ahead of us, right? So let's say you're putting 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Now, if the advertiser is at Hong Kong time zone, ideally you are, let's say, serving in Indian time zone, you're serving from 5:30 to 8:30, right? Because India is 2.5 hours behind Hong Kong. So if you want to serve from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., ideally you should start your campaign at 10 o'clock, because you don't have option of 10:30 here. You start from 10 o'clock to 12 midnight. That means you are serving from 8 to 9:30, 10 at night, right? So that is how the calculation is done. So you should be know, like, this day and time is very important. Then is your device targeting, like what are the device type you want to serve on, be it a smartphone, tablet, connected TV, desktop, which are the Android, like if it's an Android campaign, you don't want to serve on Android versions which have become extinct, right? Now, nowadays, all cell phones are either Android 7 and above. So you want to negate till Android 6, 7, because those are the ones would be very, very like very less in the present in the world right now, right? So you can, same for iOS, if we are doing an iOS targeting, right? If one wants to run only MWeb, what do? You select a smartphone here, and on the environment, you can deselect app. So you'll be serving only on mobile web inventories. That is your MWeb. Similarly, desktop web would be desktop and web. Similarly, MApp would be mobile and app. So you can, again, as per your strategy, you can select this, right? Then is your demographics. Again, the only limitation for demographics here is you can't, let's say someone says, I want to target 22 to 25. Unfortunately, you can't, or you can't negate also, because age is available in blocks of 10. So you can only move it in 18 to 25 or 25 to 35, 35 to 45 accordingly, right? So it's in blocks of 10. And the others are very much like similar, like male, female, parental status, household income, right? Unknown means like, let's say if one wants to target only top 30%, ideally you shouldn't have unknown, because unknown is something you can't control. It is on the system. It might end up spending on HHI below 30% also. So if you have a very specific targeting, one shouldn't select unknown, right? So because unknown can be anything, right?
So
Uh,
Rohan, over here, I have a question. Where can we see the
yeah.
universe size for all the targeting parameters that we've included?
Yeah, so I'll come to that. That is on the other side. Here you won't be able to see anything.
Okay, okay.
So yeah. So here, as you can see, there's an inventory availability option. This is again a very directional data within this gender, age group, household income. What is that? But if you want at an audience level, ideally, let's say, for example, I just move to the audience bit. So let's say here is something like on DV360 is very difficult to get the exact audience reach. Unlike, let's say, on Google, you might get, on Meta, you might get. Here, let's say, for example, I target a baseball fan group, which is, let's say, in market bucket, right? Now, let's say this is the overall reach it will say. And of course, I have excluded my audience also, which are the exclusions. So we go by this bit where you say that overall reach for baseball fans is 88 million. Included is 235 and excluded is 27.6. So this is what you get. Again, gender, since I've targeted male only, it is showing me for 100% male and that age group. So you can tweak it and check it accordingly. But again, these are not very accurate compared to what you might, let's say, do it while you do a research or when you actually come up with. But this is the direction numbers we fall on. So this is where we see the audience size for any Google bucket in market affinity, or let's say using that demographic targeting as well.
And do we have all the audience parameters available over here? Like, can I add HHI also to baseball
Yes.
fans?
Yeah, so baseball fans, I already have put demographics there. So that's why it's showing 100% male and that age group. So
Got it, got it.
you can change that, and this volume will change.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, just coming to the other levels of targeting that are there. Now you have browser, you have your connection speed, you have your carrier and ISP. Let's say I want to target only Geo users or Vodafone users or particular carrier and ISP. You can do that as well. You can then target a connection speed like users only who have 4G, right, or have 3G and above. So you can target that as well. Right? So these are the different, and language targeting is also there. That means if I want to target only, let's say, Gujarati speaking users or Hindi speaking users, or let's say Arabic speaking users. So, or depending whatever your strategy is. So you can choose which language you want to target. Unless there's a specific strategy, you keep it open. So it will automatically serve on English speaking users. Right? So then is your flight days that you can choose. Here we've selected same dates as insertion order. That is where the insertion order budget and date becomes very important. So you should keep checking the insertion order settings as well. Budget and pacing, this is where you can choose you want to do, let's say, the bidding strategy, like what is the daily budget. So let's say I have 5 line items of 5,000 each, but at IO level, if I cap it at 10,000, within all the line items, it will end up spending 10,000 for that day because IO will overrule the LI pacing. So again, that is up to the system to spend 10,000 within a allocated budget of 30,000. Let's say 5,006 line items, and IO level you've kept 10,000. So ideally, you should know why you've kept that or whatever the strategy is. So it again varies from campaign to campaign. Bidding strategy, you can start with fixed bid or then come to maximize conversions with the CPM cap, because for performance campaign, CPM cap is of utmost priority. We don't let it overshoot at a higher range. So we cap it basis what we are getting at 7.5, 6.5, 10.5, depending again on the creative format. A native will have a higher CPM fee compared to your display static because of the inventory ad slot. So it varies basis line item to line item again. Right. And then is your frequency cap at a line item level. Of course, you have already capped it at IO level. So as a part of best practice, and then you have your creatives that you've uploaded, you assign it here, the creatives that you want to run for that particular set of audience and that line item. And here is the conversion tracking. This is where you, this is the, let's say the floodlight activity, like I am driving e-sign up for Grow, which is a investment app. I am driving e-sign up, that means account open. I have that floodlight integrated with Aswire. I have now giving signals to the line item that I want to drive account opens. And then the postback window is as per what the MMP window has, so that it is getting data and passing it back into the system for its learning. Right? So this is how the line item settings would look like. Any queries, any questions? This is all that are the part of in a line item insertion order campaign. And of course, it varies basis the strategy and the plan that is made. Like what is that you want to execute basis the planning that has been done.
Rohan, I know we're slightly short on time, but if you can just quickly show us the marketplace as well, where we request the proposals.
Yeah, okay. Just one more thing before I go to the marketplace. So on the line item level, these are some basic settings that one can control without going into the line item. Is your bid, is your budget, daily frequency, because this is a few things that you want to tweak on a day-to-day level or a week-on-week level. So these are again some quick settings that are there. Coming to the marketplace, again, on inventory, there are options of negotiation. So negotiation is where you will find, let's say if you've negotiated for something has come before or you've accepted, right? Incoming, like your negotiations now. Mainly if let's say Spotify, for example, is sending me a deal, it would be visible under your marketplace, sorry, under negotiation, right? My inventory are the ones that are already like that you've already, let's say, accepted and you have included in the system. Sorry, in the line item. Marketplaces, this helps us reach out to various publishers actually. Let's say for display and video, I want to, let's say, directly from marketplace, I want to reach out to a publisher, right? You can choose whichever publisher, let's say Emo, for example. I can click here. You can see what are their available data points basis the age group. If it works, you can request for a proposal here also. You can choose your RFP name, what is the budget, what is the creative type you want to do, and they'll actually respond to you in a very short span of time. So if you're not able to reach out to them directly, and if it's part of the marketplace, you can send proposals from here also, just to get a sense of the rate that they, let's say, they'll give you at, because it's very important to know the floor price at which you're getting it, and of course the audience size as well. So on marketplace, you can send for proposals as well, right? And for any negotiations, you can, let's say, you can go here. So let's say, I'll just show you for some other partner because there's a recent negotiation that has come. So maybe that will give up better. So for Swiggy, let's say we got a Spotify deal. So or let's say a Sony Live deal. So let's say here you can edit your proposals, you can choose, you can see what is the deal that they have sent. It's a CPM deal at a fixed cost of, let's say, 225, and what are the impression, like what is the number of impressions that you want to serve, what is the end date, start date, what is the video format that you want to run, is it a video, is it a display? So you'll get all sort of, let's say, details here, and then you can edit proposal, you can send it back to the user, whoever that marketplace team is, and they can redo that as well. So all those are possible here. So this is a bit about the marketplace.
Thank you.
Yeah. And once you accepted, this will show go under your mind. Right now, these are action required, so these are all under negotiations. I think we've almost come to the end of the session. Anything else that you want me to cover or walk you through?
I think it was quite detailed. Rohan. Thank you so much. Guys, if any questions before we close?
Yeah, let me know if you have any follow-up queries. I'm more than happy.
Thanks for patiently taking us through this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
So I feel like we still need one follow-up session, Rohan. Probably like we can take a case study or any of the campaign we are setting up now. So like,
Definitely, we can.
Let's plan one more so that like
Sure.
all of us will get practical knowledge of it. I know that you have taken us through the dashboard and all. We'll not know like unless we execute one campaign. So at least virtually. But yeah,
Sure,
thank
sure.
you so much, Rohan. It's very quite detailed and very informative. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thanks, Rohan.
We can
Thanks so much,
definitely
Rohan.
have a follow-up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rohan.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.